political analyst and writer. Arieh, welcome to the program. First of all, has Nir Hefetz fallen out with Netanyahu? Because for Bibi's former spokesperson to speak like this in the trial is, well, it seems surprising because they must have been close before.
Well, it's important to understand here that Hefetz himself was a suspect in this case and only agreed to turn state's evidence in return for immunity. I can't imagine the two men are close anymore, but it wasn't a situation where Hefetz himself voluntarily came forward. He came forward, at least in part, to save his own skin. And even in the course of his testimony, he stressed that he's still a big supporter of Netanyahu and his politics, and believes he's an extraordinary man. So, they're certainly not close anymore, but there are extenuating circumstances here.
Yeah, OK. Look, you're a political analyst, you're a writer, you probably follow, these kind of minutiae of politics. Do you think for the general public, this has all come as a surprise and it's new for them?
No, not at all. Because of a series of high-profile leaks, the details of these kind of testimony cases have been public knowledge now for really several years. There is an extra drama to seeing it played out in the courtroom, to hear these things spoken by the voices of the witnesses. Although, to be honest, tapes of the testimony have already leaked, so I've heard these words before too. That said, there's something obviously more poignant to hear. Really, the personal details, how Netanyahu's family were involved in shaping the coverage, how Netanyahu's son, Yair, supposedly demanded that Netanyahu make himself communications minister in addition to prime minister, so he could ensure that the media tycoons could get what they needed and keep giving him favorable coverage.
How much of this is going to affect Netanyahu's future as a politician? I mean, OK, he's not prime minister, but he's still a member of parliament. He's still influential. How much of this is going to diminish some of that influence?
Well, Netanyahu is more than just a member of parliament. He's still head of the opposition, head of the largest party, the Knesset, and still sees himself as a potential future prime minister. He spent a lot of today opposing the current government's new plan to impose a two-term limit on prime ministers, a two-term limit that would only be wouldn't be retroactive. And one of the reasons he seems to oppose it is because he plans to be prime minister for 10 years in the future. At the moment, there doesn't seem to be any political blowback. His party is still standing behind him. Lots of voices off in private, but nobody willing to break cover. And he maintains a popularity amongst his own supporters. What the obvious road bump for that would be that if a guilty verdict happens and he faces a possibility of jail, but at the pace that this trial is going, that could be a couple of years before there's a verdict.
What's the situation regarding Netanyahu himself appearing in the witness stand, Arieh?
It's not clear yet. And it will be a long way off before we get to that point. Netanyahu, until now, has managed to avoid having to even come to court very much. For a part of the trial, he was prime minister. Today, he was in court. I think it would be about a question of what his own lawyers advise him. But that said, I suspect he himself might relish the opportunity to stand on the witness stand and attack his critics. I don't think he necessarily plans to be found not guilty. He might want to mount a defence and an attack on the judiciary.
Arieh, really appreciate it. Thank you so much indeed. Arieh Kovler speaking there from West Jerusalem.